Unthinking respect for authority is the greatest enemy of truth. A happy man is too satisfied with the present to think too much about the future. As far as the propositions of mathematics refer to reality, they are not certain, and as far as they are certain, they do not refer to reality. Common sense is nothing more than a deposit of prejudices laid down in the mind before you reach 18. I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious. Our death is not an end if we have lived on in our children and the younger generation. For they are us, our bodies are only wilted leaves on the tree of life. The aim of education must be the training of independently thinking and acting individuals, who, however, see in the service of the community their highest life problem. With fame I become more and more stupid, which of course is a very common phenomenon. It strikes me as unfair, and even in bad taste, to select a few individuals for boundless admiration, attributing superhuman powers of mind and character to them. This has been my fate. And the contrast between the popular assessment of my powers and achievements and the reality is simply grotesque. Let me tell you what I look like: pale face, long hair, and a tiny start of a paunch. In addition, an awkward gait, and a cigar in the mouth, and a pen in pocket or hand. But crooked legs and warts he does not have. And so is quite handsome. Also there's no hair on his hands, as is so often the case with ugly men. So it really is a pity that you didn't see me. I am enough of the artist to draw freely upon my imagination. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited. Imagination encircles the world. As a human being, one has been endowed with just enough intelligence to be able to see clearly how utterly inadequate that intelligence is when confronted with what exists. People are like bicycles. They can keep their balance only as long as they keep moving. If I were not a physicist, I would probably be a musician. I often think in music. I live my daydreams in music. I see my life in terms of music. I cannot tell if I would have done any creative work of importance in music. But I do know that I get most joy in life out of my violin. The fairest thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. He who knows it not and can no longer wonder, no longer feel amazement, is as good as dead. A snuffed-out candle. I choose a lazy person to do a hard job. Because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. Of all the statistics in health, death is the easiest, because you can go out and ask people, hey, have you had any children who died? Did your siblings have any children who died? People don't forget that. If you take from the most wealthy and give to the least wealthy, it's good. It starts to balance out. Unfortunately, in rich world health, innovation is both your friend and your enemy. Innovation is inventing organ replacement, joint replacement. We're inventing ways of doing new things that cost $300,000 and take people in their 70s and, on average, give them an extra, say, 2 or 3 years of life. And then you have to say, given finite resources, should we fire 2 or 3 teachers to do this operation? I watched the piles of feces go up the conveyor belt. They made their way through the machine. A few minutes later I took a long taste of the end result, a glass of delicious drinking water. If you want to improve the situation of the poorest 2 billion on the planet, having the price of energy go down substantially would be the best thing you could do for them. You may have heard of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. There's another day you might want to know about, Giving Tuesday. The idea is pretty straightforward. On the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, shoppers take a break from their gift buying and donate what they can to charity. Married life is a simpler life. Who I spend my time with is established in advance. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. I admire leaders in science, people who really figure things out like Richard Feynman, or people who work on vaccines, tons of people working on the HIV vaccine. There are leaders in business, people like Warren Buffett, who've got a certain approach they take that is pretty amazing. There are product innovators like Steve Jobs were, where he gets behind a concept and does a fantastic job. If you can't make it good, at least make it look good. Microsoft is involved in setting some fairly key standards, and people are afraid of it because they think, geez, they are quite capable. It's daunting, I suppose. Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. My dream is that every child has enough food to eat, good medical care, and the chance to go to school and even attend college. If something is important enough, even if the odds are against you, you should still do it. Going from PayPal, I thought, well, what are some of the other problems that are likely to most affect the future of humanity? Not from the perspective, what's the best way to make money? Physics is a good framework for thinking. Boil things down to their fundamental truths and reason up from there. The first step is to establish that something is possible, then probability will occur. It's okay to have your eggs in one basket as long as you control what happens to that basket. Persistence is very important. You should not give up unless you are forced to give up. You want to have a future where you're expecting things to be better, not one where you're expecting things to be worse. It is a mistake to hire huge numbers of people to get a complicated job done. Numbers will never compensate for talent in getting the right answer. Two people who don't know something or know better than one will tend to slow down progress and will make the task incredibly expensive. If you go back a few hundred years, what we take for granted today would seem like magic, being able to talk to people over long distances, to transmit images, flying, accessing vast amounts of data like an oracle. These are all things that would have been considered magic a few hundred years ago. My biggest mistake is probably weighing too much on someone's talent and not someone's personality. I think it matters whether someone has a good heart. When I was in college, I wanted to be involved in things that would change the world. Now I am. I think it's very important to have a feedback loop, where you're constantly thinking about what you've done and how you could be doing it better. I think that's the single best piece of advice. Constantly think about how you could be doing things better and questioning yourself. I wouldn't say I have a lack of fear. In fact, I'd like my fear emotion to be less because it's very distracting and fries my nervous system. Life is too short for long-term grudges. Don't be afraid of new arenas. I think it is possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary. I could either watch it happen or be a part of it. Being an entrepreneur is like eating glass and staring into the abyss of death. I would like to die on Mars. Just not on impact. If we have a strong desire from the heart, then the whole universe will work together to make it happen. Ducks walk in flocks, but eagles fly alone. Take my suffering as a testimony that even the power of a president has limits, because the only lasting power is the power of the people, and above all else is the power of God Almighty. A 1,000 old men can only dream, but a young man can change the world. Nationalism cannot bloom if it does not grow in the garden of internationalism. That is the concept of nationalism that was founded by Indonesia. Not Javanese, not Sumatran, not Kalimantan, Sulawesi, Balinese or others, but Indonesians, who together form the foundation of a national unity. The rose never propagates its fragrance, but its own fragrance permeates its surroundings. Conquering thousands of humans may not be called a winner, but being able to conquer oneself is called a brilliant conqueror. Where slavery is, there is no freedom, and where freedom is, slavery is not. No country is truly alive if there is nothing like a cauldron that boils and burns, and if there is no clash of beliefs in it. A great nation is a nation that respects the services of its heroes. If God gave me 2 lives, for example, I would also dedicate these 2 lives to my homeland and nation. Only a nation that dares to take fate into its own hands will be able to stand strong. Struggles bring difficulties. Great struggles require not only experience but also courage. A nation that does not believe in its own strength as a nation cannot stand as an independent nation. My struggle is easier because it expels the invaders, but your struggle will be more difficult because it is against your own people. But apart from that, the event becomes the independence of a nation that was previously colonized by the imperialism of other nations, independent, truly independent, and not a puppet independence. Real leaders must be ready to sacrifice all for the freedom of their people. A fundamental concern for others in our individual and community lives would go a long way in making the world the better place we so passionately dreamed of. Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. Everyone can rise above their circumstances and achieve success if they are dedicated to and passionate about what they do. I like friends who have independent minds because they tend to make you see problems from all angles. It always seems impossible until it's done. Many people in this country have paid the price before me and many will pay the price after me. Do not judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. Money won't create success, the freedom to make it will. It is in the character of growth that we should learn from both pleasant and unpleasant experiences. It is not our diversity which divides us, it is not our ethnicity, or religion or culture that divides us. Since we have achieved our freedom, there can only be one division amongst us. Between those who cherish democracy and those who do not. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. A critical, independent and investigative press is the lifeblood of any democracy. The press must be free from state interference. It must have the economic strength to stand up to the blandishments of government officials. It must have sufficient independence from vested interests to be bold and inquiring without fear or favor. It must enjoy the protection of the Constitution, so that it can protect our rights as citizens. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all. Let there be work, bread, water and salt for all. Let each know that for each the body, the mind and the soul have been freed to fulfill themselves. Without language, one cannot talk to people and understand them. One cannot share their hopes and aspirations, grasp their history, appreciate their poetry, or savor their songs.
The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. For the past 33 years, I have looked in the mirror every morning and asked myself, if today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I am about to do today? And whenever the answer has been no for too many days in a row, I know I need to change something. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. I've always been attracted to the more revolutionary changes. I don't know why. Because they're harder. They're much more stressful emotionally. And you usually go through a period where everybody tells you that you've completely failed. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. It's really hard to design products by focus groups. A lot of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. I'm as proud of many of the things we haven't done as the things we have done. Innovation is saying no to 1,000 things. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. Quality is more important than quantity. One home run is much better than 2 doubles. Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected. My model for business is the Beatles. They were 4 guys that kept each other's negative tendencies in check, they balanced each other. And the total was greater than the sum of the parts. Sometimes when you innovate, you make mistakes. It is best to admit them quickly and get on with improving your other innovations.
If you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. good friends, good books, and a sleepy conscience. This is the ideal life. Whenever you find yourself on the side of the majority, it is time to reform, or pause and reflect. The man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. Never put off till tomorrow what may be done day after tomorrow just as well. Classic, a book which people praise and don't read. I have never let my schooling interfere with my education. The fear of death follows from the fear of life. A man who lives fully is prepared to die at any time. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is putting on its shoes. Never tell the truth to people who are not worthy of it. Keep away from people who try to belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the really great make you feel that you, too, can become great. In a good book room you feel in some mysterious way that you are absorbing the wisdom contained in all the books through your skin, without even opening them. Substitute damn every time you're inclined to write very. Your editor will delete it and the writing will be just as it should be. Reader, suppose you were an idiot. And suppose you were a member of Congress. But I repeat myself. Don't go around saying the world owes you a living. The world owes you nothing. It was here first. I did not attend his funeral, but I sent a nice letter saying I approved of it. God created war so that Americans would learn geography. I was gratified to be able to answer promptly, and I did. I said I didn't know. Never allow someone to be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option. Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. I do not think there is any other quality so essential to success of any kind as the quality of perseverance. It overcomes almost everything, even nature. A friendship founded on business is better than a business founded on friendship. The secret to success is to do the common things uncommonly well. I would rather hire a man with enthusiasm than a man who knows everything. The most important thing for a young man is to establish a credit, a reputation, character. Charity is injurious unless it helps the recipient to become independent of it. The ability to deal with people is as purchasable a commodity as sugar or coffee, and I will pay more for that ability. I was early taught to work as well as play. My life has been one long, happy holiday, full of work and full of play. I dropped the worry on the way and God was good to me every day. Next to doing the right thing, the most important thing is to let people know you are doing the right thing. I believe that every right implies a responsibility, every opportunity, an obligation, every possession, a duty. If you want to succeed, you should strike out on new paths, rather than travel the worn paths of accepted success. A man has no right to occupy another man's time unnecessarily. I always try to turn every disaster into an opportunity. Singleness of purpose is one of the chief essentials for success in life, no matter what may be one's aim. Go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll be able to see farther. It is one thing to stand on the comfortable ground of placid inaction and put forth words of cynical wisdom. and another to plunge into the work itself and through strenuous experience earn the right to express strong conclusions. Do what you can, with what you have, where you are. It is hard to fail, but it is worse never to have tried to succeed. Believe you can and you're halfway there. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. When you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot and hold on. Nothing in the world is worth having or worth doing unless it means effort, pain, difficulty. I have never in my life envied a human being who led an easy life. I have envied a great many people who led difficult lives and led them well. The only man who never makes mistakes is the man who never does anything. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but is morally treasonable to the American public. To educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace to society. Knowing what's right doesn't mean much unless you do what's right. Keep your eyes on the stars, and your feet on the ground. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. Here is your country. Cherish these natural wonders, cherish the natural resources, cherish the history and romance as a sacred heritage, for your children and your children's children. Do not let selfish men or greedy interests skin your country of its beauty, its riches or its romance. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The worst thing you can do is nothing. Courage is not having the strength to go on, It is going on when you don't have the strength. Every immigrant who comes here should be required within 5 years to learn English or leave the country. It all depends on how we look at things, and not how they are in themselves. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to a better understanding of ourselves. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. In all chaos there is a cosmos, in all disorder a secret order. Knowledge rests not upon truth alone, but upon error also. Show me a sane man and I will cure him for you. There is no coming to consciousness without pain. The word happiness would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. We don't really heal anything, we simply let it go. Nobody, as long as he moves about among the chaotic currents of life, is without trouble. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. As far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. There can be no transforming of darkness into light and of apathy into movement without emotions. A man who has not passed through the inferno of his passions has never overcome them. Great talents are the most lovely and often the most dangerous fruits on the tree of humanity. They hang upon the most slender twigs that are easily snapped off. Success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. You have enemies? Good. That means you've stood up for something, sometime in your life. Men occasionally stumble over the truth, but most of them pick themselves up and hurry off as if nothing had happened. My tastes are simple, I am easily satisfied with the best. History will be kind to me for I intend to write it. Success is stumbling from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Tact is the ability to tell someone to go to hell in such a way that they look forward to the trip. Never, never, never give in. I am fond of pigs. Dogs look up to us. Cats look down on us. Pigs treat us as equals. It is not enough that we do our best, sometimes we must do what is required. The best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. A lady came up to me one day and said, "Sir, you are drunk," to which I replied, "I am drunk today, madam, and tomorrow I shall be sober, but you will still be ugly." Kites rise highest against the wind, not with it. Never give in. Never give in. Never, 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 in nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in, except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force, never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy. Nothing in life is so exhilarating as to be shot at without result. A fanatic is one who can't change his mind and won't change the subject. Personally, I'm always ready to learn, although I do not always like being taught. For myself, I am an optimist. It does not seem to be much use to be anything else. Continuous effort, not strength or intelligence, is the key to unlocking our potential. The greatest lesson in life is to know that even fools are right sometimes. As a well-spent day brings happy sleep, so life well used brings happy death. Painting is poetry that is seen rather than felt, and poetry is painting that is felt rather than seen. A painter should begin every canvas with a wash of black, because all things in nature are dark except where exposed by the light. Study without desire spoils the memory, and it retains nothing that it takes in. It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. It is easier to resist at the beginning than at the end. Iron rusts from disuse, stagnant water loses its purity, and in cold weather becomes frozen, even so does inaction sap the vigors of the mind. All our knowledge has its origin in our perceptions. Realize that everything connects to everything else. Make your work to be in keeping with your purpose. Once you have tasted the taste of sky, you will forever look up. Obstacles cannot crush me, every obstacle yields to stern resolve. Why does the eye see more clearly when asleep than the imagination when awake? Learning is the only thing the mind never exhausts, never fears, and never regrets. A well-spent day brings happy sleep. Wisdom is the daughter of experience. Just as a well-filled day brings blessed sleep, so a well-employed life brings a blessed death. There is no object so large but that at a great distance from the eye it does not appear smaller than a smaller object near. I have always felt it is my destiny to build a machine that would allow man to fly. There are three classes of people: those who see, those who see when they are shown, those who do not see. It had long since come to my attention that people of accomplishment rarely sat back and let things happen to them. They went out and happened to things. You do ill if you praise, but worse if you censure what you do not understand. Beyond a doubt, truth bears the same relation to falsehood as light to darkness. Experience does not err. Only your judgments err by expecting from her what is not in her power.